Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome back to Game Over Toronto. I feel like that little technical glitch right there at the beginning from me forgetting to unmute is appropriate for the way this game went. As the Leafs lose 4-1, it was 4-1 and it stayed 4-1 to the Dallas Stars, bringing their losing streak to 3 games. 3 games in regulation for the first time this season. Lots to get into. One positive and then a whole lot of negative. We'll talk about it all here tonight on Game Over Toronto. First, though, introductions, in case you're new to the show. My name is Dominic Jones, and with me, once again, we got Zach Payne. Zach, how are you doing tonight?
Well, I'm good. I don't know if the Leafs are good.
Yeah,
but, I'm doing all right.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. It's been a while since we've done one of these together. It's been we've been doing a lot of solo shows, and I was very pleasantly surprised to see that it would be the two of us back on here. Let's get into this game. Let's talk about it. As I said, 4-1 lost to the Dallas Stars. They spent so much time talking about it on the broadcast that the Leafs haven't lost to the Stars in a really long time. That was just like, you guys are jinxing it. You just know it's gonna take a turn for the unfortunate, and it did. Zach, I'll throw it to you. What did you think of this one? What's your overall impression of this game?
Man, we got 2 announcer jinxes in this one. We got the streak against Dallas ending, and then we had the penalty kills, like 17 straight kill streak.
Yeah.
And, like, it was just TSN was just doing the most trying to jinx the Leafs in this one. I was not impressed, but look, I did the stream on Saturday, and I did not see a lot from tonight's game that was different from the Canucks game, in that the Leafs just once again decided offense was completely optional and didn't generate anything on the power play or at 5-on-5. They had a few posts, at least on the power play, but a lot of them coming from outside shots that weren't traditionally aren't very dangerous anyways. So just not very impressed with the offensive side of the game right now.
Yeah, it's a shame because they started so well in this one. Like, this was something at the end of last year, at the end of 2024, that I was really starting to worry about with this team, was they were starting so poorly. And in the last couple of games, they have gotten out to pretty decent starts. They got a lead on Carolina. They got a lead on Dallas tonight. The less said about the Vancouver game, the better. But they've gotten over the starting poorly thing, only to play like shit for the rest of the game, because they come out, they're just whipping the puck around. They're looking great. They have so much energy. They're just buzzing, and it leads to it leads to a power play where they looked dangerous. They didn't score, of course, but they looked dangerous. And then all of a sudden Matthews gets a goal. He has a beauty of a wrister, and then it's just like they just stopped. And I know that the shots wound up being fairly even, but I think that's a bit deceptive because none of the shots from that point on felt particularly dangerous. Watching it, you'd look up at the shot clock and go, oh wow, they're kind of close. Whereas, because it felt like Dallas was outplaying them considerably, and the results show it in the end. Let's take a quick moment here and focus on a positive, the one and only positive, I at least that I could see in this one. Matthews' wrist shot. That looked like classic 69 goal Austin Matthews right there. That's been the concern with all of his injuries and with this season as a whole, that he hasn't been shooting the puck as well. He fired that one past Ottinger, and I thought there's no way we're losing this game if he's playing like that. Were you relieved to see Matthews fire one off like that?
Well, of course, and that goal was monumental for a few reasons. One, it was basically a guarantee that line was going to score, because the second you see Steven Lorentz is on the top line, you know that sometimes things are so wacky and dumb that they have to work. And
right.
It worked. But Mike Johnson pointed this out on the broadcast, and he's by far the best part of any broadcast for the Leafs this season on Sportsnet or TSN. And he pointed out that you could tell how healthy Austin Matthews is just based on how his shot looks. And it wasn't just that goal. He had a few shots from on the outside from the ringette line just coming in where he would just rip it. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's Austin Matthews. There was one in the waning moments of this one on the power play that Ottinger just snatched out of the air. But it's like, that's a classic Austin Matthews release. So in a game where there's not a whole lot positive to talk about, it is at least encouraging that Matthews looks like himself again.
Yes, absolutely. Let's kind of stick with the top line for a second here, because as you mentioned, Steven Lorentz is on the top line. There's been a little bit of a revolving door there lately. Matthew Knies, of course, the one we expect to be there, and he's been on and off that line, and we've seen a few other folks get tries there. Steven Lorentz being the latest. What's going on here? Why can the two arguably best players on the team not find someone to play with?
Well, there's a few things. The easy answer is that Matthew Knies has been a very streaky player this year. He has two modes. He's either just dominant world beater or very invisible. Tonight he had a few good moments, but overall, ever since his head injury, he's just been very timid. He's been. It looks like because you remember at the start of the season, you'll recall he was running people over all the time. Like he was just a tank out there that you couldn't stop, and that hasn't been the case since he's come back from injury. His skill is there, obviously, and he's had his good moments. But I don't know, of the Leafs wingers right now, do you feel confident in any of them being a top liner?
Not really. Like Knies is still the one I feel the most confident in, and I get that they're trying to get him going. Maybe they're these sort of quasi demotion or promotion of other players is maybe meant to sort of light a bit of a spark under him, try and get him going. But I still feel like long term he's the solution. He's the best option, at least of the options that are available to them. I know later in the game, Max Domi got some time up there. He got at least a shift, if not a couple. And that's been the one I've been kind of waiting for as they try a few other names up there. He did have some success with Austin Matthews last year. The Matthews, Domi, Bertuzzi line was pretty decent going into the end of the season. I know you're smiling because you're thinking that's all about Bert. It was all Big Bert's doing there, making it happen. But I think you got to at least try it and see if there's something there. I'd be interested in seeing Bobby McMahon get a few shifts there. The Matthews, Marner, Nylander thing never seems to work. Neither does a Matthews, Marner, Tavares line. Pacioretty didn't seem to fit in there. I get giving Lorentz a try just because he has that go get the puck attitude, but he doesn't bring the right other mix of skills you need. And when you look at the players, it always comes back to Matthew Knies. He's the guy who has that. The next closest one would be Bobby McMahon, I would think. And I love McMahon, I love Bobby, but he's not. I don't think he's top line. I think he tops out as a second liner, and really is probably best suited for kind of the third line role that he's settled into this year, which has been a positive for the team. And when the team is going, that third line is going. But I'm not super confident in any of them. I don't know if there's somebody that I've missed that you've got your eye on, or if you're looking at Mr. Trade as the option.
Well, no. What I was going to say is you just went through pretty much every conceivable option, and you couldn't name one option that you would feel good about.
Yeah.
So why are Matthews and Marner together then?
I mean, that is the other question. That is the question. Why keep them together besides the fact that they apparently like it? But,
who cares?
Yeah. Well, and this is the thing with bringing in Berube is he was supposed to be the tough guy. He was supposed to be the guy who was going to give tell it straight to these guys. And that's what they always say about him is he tells it how it is, and you may not like where you stand, but you know where you stand. And I'm waiting for him to pull Austin and Mitch aside and say, all right, guys, enough. It's not working. Mitch, you're going with John. Austin, you're getting Willie, and we're seeing what else we can figure out, or we're really gonna blow it up for a game and just throw everybody in the blender and see what we come up with. That's what I expected Craig Berube's role with this team to be, more than making the team more of a East-West team and more or less focused on the rush, more low event. Like, okay, yeah, that's great. I expected him that he was being brought in to be the tough guy, be the bad guy, and tell these guys no. And thus far, that hasn't happened yet, because Matthews and Marner are playing together. And as we'll talk about later, and as we always talk about, Power Play 1 still exists in its current beyond belief form. So I don't know. I don't know if there's... I'm guessing... I know you're feeling the same way, but like, do you see any other solutions out there other than breaking them up?
Well, I mean,
besides
we
they
know
just
they're
magically
capable.
figure it out and start playing better.
We know they're capable of playing together because they're great players and they've done it for years. But I just look at how incredible Mitch Marner was when Austin Matthews was out of the lineup. And now Matthews comes back, and suddenly Marner has forgotten that he is a very dominant player. And I don't know what it is about, like, because these two are so dominant, they're so good, but whenever they play together, I don't know if they're overthinking, I don't know if they're getting too cute. Like,
do they like each other too much? Like, there's the whole conversation in Vancouver about the two guys, Miller and Pettersson, that don't get along, and how this is causing problems. And then there's conversations in Boston about Marchand and Pasternak not getting along, and whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. And I don't want Brad Marchand coming after me the way he did the Boston Reporter. But I almost wonder if they like each other so much that there's no internal competition. There's no like little bit of like one-upsmanship of wanting to prove, no, I am better. I'm the guy. I'm the one who you can rely on. Who are you putting out in the ultimate situation? There's none of that. Like they just want, they're like, no, keep us together. Don't separate us. Don't make me play with somebody else. It's like, no, you guys should want to play together. You should want to be as best as you can together. But isn't there a part of you as a competitor that wants to be the best? And I know that Austin is always going to be the best, but wouldn't Mitch and Willie and all these guys, wouldn't they like to, show that they are, that they are capable of leading a team without Austin? And like you said, he plays so well without him. And then as soon as he comes in, he disappears. Like, he defers to him. And you don't want, it's like, stop deferring to him. Be the guy. Go out there and every shift you should both want to be the guy instead of deferring to the other guy. Say, no, I am the guy, I'm going to score. Or I'm the guy, I'm going to make the perfect play. Or the right play. We won't say the perfect play, the right play. Instead of going, no, you do it. No, you do it. No, you do it. There's a kind of a back and I wonder if that's part of it, that there isn't that sort of desire to show that you're the best on the team. And I suppose, like, I'm gonna argue with myself here for a second. I suppose there's a case to be made that you don't want that you don't want your teammates fighting amongst each other. That's true. That's real. I don't want there to be dislike in the dressing room, but I want them to want to prove themselves every shift. And right now they don't feel like it. They almost feels like they think their job is to defer to somebody else. So I wonder if there's a piece of the mental game that's missing here of just deferment. I won't even say wanting to prove you're the best, just of constantly deferring to the other guy.
Yeah, or there's the more cynical view. We've had 8 years of this core. And for 8 years, we have heard from the Leafs organization how great these players are. We're going to keep them together forever. I don't know. We're going to try this analogy. It's kind of like a bunch of spoiled kids that have never been told no growing up, and now their parents are trying to discipline them. Now Craig Berube is their high school teacher that's trying to discipline them, but they've never been told no in their entire lives. And whenever the kids complain, mommy and daddy, aka Brendan Shanahan, just comes in and is like, "Stop! You don't treat my kids that way."
Right.
I wonder if these guys in the early years, because if we go back to the Babcock years, right? Young years, Matthews and Marner were never allowed to play together, right?
True.
Babcock was very adamant that they are two great players, but they have to drive their own lines because you got to spread the wealth. Now, Babcock had a bunch of other philosophies that obviously were very bad and didn't age well and resulted in him getting fired. But he got fired because the young kids, as they were growing up and they were getting into their young 20s, they were like, "We don't like this coach. We want our coach. We want different coach." And Kyle Dubas said, "Here you go, kids. Here's brand new coach. Here's Sheldon Keefe. He's going to build you back up. He's going to be Mr. Positive." And then Sheldon Keefe basically gave the keys to those guys, and they never gave them back. Like it's I don't know. This is a weird analogy. I don't know how I'm going with this, but
It's been about 4 that have all come together, but I've liked it. I've followed you.
point is that these guys have been running the organization for the last 8 years, and you cannot have the inmates running the asylum. Someone has to basically just take this by the reins and take charge. And I don't know, Berube has to figure out how to do that, how to discipline these guys, how to get through to them that they have not earned the right to play together, essentially.
Yeah, it's true. And like you said, there's I think there's a real desire from Shanahan in particular, and everybody who's been around for the entire experiment, to prove that they're right about these guys, to prove that they had the right strategy all along. And anytime somebody has come along and said, actually, maybe it's not working, they find themselves out the door.
The second Dubas even hinted that he would trade anyone, he was fired.
He was out. He was gone. And I feel like I wonder if maybe Shanahan's desire to be right is outweighing his desire to win. And look, I love to be right as much as the next person. I get stuck in my ways sometimes. I'm not saying that, Brendan Shanahan's a terrible person or that this isn't a very human thing. But at a certain point, you got to look at the results in front of you. And I know what his response to that would be. It would be, well, I don't want to trade it before it works. I don't want to send these guys away and see them start winning somewhere else. But the response to that is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And we're, how many years into this experiment? 8+ years. And we've seen the second round once for 5 games.
The Leafs are literally the definition of the gamblers who are 99% of gamblers quit right before they hit it big or something, right? The Leafs are no, but this time, this spin, they're addicted to this core.
Yeah.
You need help. We need to go to Core 4 Anonymous and get some help.
Can't pull the lever one more time, Brendan. You can't. Sometimes you gotta walk away from the machine. Sometimes you gotta walk away from your guy. It's been it's that I love. We've been doing some great analogy work here so far on this episode.
Metaphor game is on another level tonight.
Yeah, really. Well, let's move on into our second period here. And as we do, of course, we want to remind you to make sure you're following Game Over on all the various social media platforms. It's at Game Over NHL on Twitter, at Game Over Network on Instagram. Search for Game Over on Blue Sky on Facebook. Make sure you're following. You'll find out when all the shows go live. Lots of good quality hockey content is posted in between live streams, and there's a live stream just about every night because there's Game Over shows for every single Canadian team. So make sure you're following, and make sure, of course, you subscribe to Game Over Toronto on YouTube so you can tune in live, join in the live chat. We got some comments flying in here. Mike Cameron says Leafs will make the playoffs ... out in the first round. Which I think is the safest bet you could probably make given the recent history, although we hope is different. So again, make sure you're subscribed to Game Over Toronto and subscribe to all 7 of the Game Over channels, and watch all the shows. And we pop up here and there on all of them as we do our crossover episodes. Like you said, you did the Vancouver one on Saturday. We got another one coming up this Saturday with Montreal. It's gonna be a lot of fun. All right. Let's talk about the special teams. And for once, we won't start with the power play. We'll start with the penalty kill, which was coming into this game had been a real strength of the team.
Still is.
And still is. They went about 8 games without giving up a power play goal. Tonight, though, two power play goals in key moments that wound up being a big deal for the Dallas Stars. If there was a game over Dallas, that's what they'd be talking about, is how great their power play was. Matt Duchene with the in between the legs goal at one point.
We get between the legs goals to Matt Duchene in 2025.
Yeah, really. And Bork with a nice tip there off a couple of tips to get that one in as the Stars get their 2 power play goals. What'd you think? What went wrong with the penalty kill tonight, or was it just a little bit of you can't go 100%? Some of these are gonna go in, and tonight it just happened to be the night that 2 went in.
Well, I mean, look, the Leafs penalty kill coming into this game was 3rd in the league. 3rd.
Yeah.
When have we ever been able to say that about the penalty kill? Like that, if there is one area that we can look at, who's running? Is it Lane Lambert that's running that penalty kill? Yeah. Unbelievable. But
A+.
Look, sometimes they're going to go in. Now, the first one, absolutely hilarious because it was a rather weak slashing call that put the Stars on the power play, and then a double deflection.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what you want anyone to do about that. That's just a weird bounce. Sometimes those are going to go in. And then Matt Duchene, look, he makes a good play. Joseph Wool goes for the poke check, and he hits the skate because Duchene went between the legs. I don't know. Like, the penalty kill was not the reason they lost, and it's not even like the Stars broke down the penalty kill in any spectacular way. It was just real circumstance.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like you said, 2 deflections. It's hard to defend against one deflection if you're the goalie. 2, you're kind of completely out of luck. And that was just, good play, good taking advantage of opportunities by the Stars. And then the Matt Duchene goal was a very, 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 very good player going in there and taking advantage of a situation and doing something that very, very, very good players can do. And that between the legs goal, hey, I got to give it to him. It deserves to be one of the top highlights for tonight, I think. It was pretty nice. The power play. What is there left to be said about this? Like,
we need to make this a drinking game.
Yeah, really. I mean, the first power play they had early on in the game when they were buzzing looked pretty good. I was like, okay, maybe there's something here. And I think 2 posts from the top unit and then another post from the second unit. Like, at a certain point, there's that. How do you hit three posts in one power play? Just unfortunate. And then the second one, I know that they had another one, but I can't really remember it. I don't know if you have thoughts on how it went.
So, first one was Nylander drop pass to Tavares, and then the rebound hits the post.
Yeah.
Second one was Marner from the point, deflected by Nyes, hits the post. And then third one was Morgan Riley, just a short side, top shelf, posting out.
Posting out, yeah. And then the second power play they had later in the game, that's the one, it's a complete void in my brain. I don't remember what happened there. Did I miss anything?
I mean, I don't believe so. They hit I don't think they even generated more than a couple shots. Like, that was at the point of the game where all the life had been sucked out of them at that point, and they were just coasting. Yeah,
they were just looking to get out of the game and get ready for Thursday in Sheldon Keefe. I think we've been through everything. We just keep bringing it up because that continues to be a big problem for the team, and sooner or later they got to try the 2 balanced units. That's the fact that they haven't tried that yet is. It's an indictment on everybody involved, and if it's the coaching staff not wanting to do it, it's an indictment on them. If it's somebody stopping them from doing it, it's an indictment on them. If it's the players protesting, it's an indictment on them. Whoever it is that is responsible, anyone and everyone, then that's the problem, and they need to at least try. Even if it doesn't work, at least you tried something.
Well, and going to your point earlier about competition, make it two different units. It's like, yeah, our unit's better than yours. Who's the top unit? Who scores? Like, figure it out. That's the whole point of having two units is you have the little inner competition of who's going to be the top unit, who's going to earn the right to more ice time, right? Like, it's just is so frustrating. Now, granted, I will say the 5 forward thing, you had to try it because it's a good idea in concept. You have to try it. And I'm fine with it. Like, you could do it for a couple more games, whatever. But you also have to give this 2-unit idea a chance because the other options haven't worked. And you owe it to yourself to try things, experiment. You just put Steven Lorentz on the top line. You're telling me you can't do 2 power play units?
Yeah. Why not? Why can't you? Why? I don't understand. Lauren Williamson, our other Game Over Toronto host, is in the live chat, and this has to be classified as as personnel, right? They've had at least 3 different power play coaches, and with each they get really bad, stale stretches. Yeah, it's the players. That's what it is. It's time to try something different. I don't know. We could sit here and come up with combinations, but at this point, it doesn't matter. Just try something else. Try something else. Shoot the puck. And you know what? When they shoot the puck, that's when they get chances. Like, that's why that first one felt exciting. Because they were shooting it, and they kept hitting the post, but they were shooting it. And if they kept doing that, they would do really well. A few games back, or several games back now, for some reason they had Bobby McMahon playing up with the top unit. I think it was one of the games when Austin was out, and he went out there and he started shooting, and lo and behold, he scored. So maybe there's something there. And again, I'm not saying make Bobby McMahon the linchpin of your power play, but he might have an idea there of shooting the puck. This real novel concept.
If you put Connor Dewar, David Kampf, Bobby McMahon, Ryan Reeves, Steven Lorentz, you put your bottom 6 out there for the power play, right now they would have a higher success rate than the current unit because they'd shoot the puck. They would be like, okay, we're not skilled enough to whip the puck around, so we're just going to shoot it and try to get to the front of the net and make something stupid go in.
Yeah, you know what? Put Reeves out there for one of these. Just put him out there. If we're going to insist on playing him, put him out there for one of these. Let him go bang and crash around a little bit and maybe stand in front of the net and screen the goalie.
You put him on the second unit because if you put him on the top unit, nothing's going to happen because the top guys have analysis paralysis every time they draw up a play. Like, genuinely, I feel like that's what it is. Over the years, the Leafs power play, when is it at its best? When the structure goes out the window and the top guys just play. Yeah. They just play hockey. Mm-hmm. Whenever they can actually shoot the puck, something chaotic happens. Sometimes, when Morgan Riley was there, Morgan Riley would be be the net front presence because of how the play broke down, and that's what would work. You look at the Bruins over the years and how they have killed the Leafs in the playoffs in those 3 series in this generation. Mm-hmm. What have they done successfully on the power play? Everyone never stops moving. Charlie McAvoy is always roaming around everywhere. Brad Marchand will play every single spot. The only person that stands still is Pasternak. Mm. That's the only one. Yeah. Everyone else is always constantly moving. The Leafs, when has anyone ended up in a different position just because that's how the play worked out? Yeah,
they don't. They're slow. They're lethargic. They go to the same spots every time. And nothing happens. Nothing changes. As we said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Get away from the table.
Let's talk a little bit about goaltending in this one, Joe Wool. We've been 4 weeks now without Anthony Stolarz. This has been Wool's net. It's been his time to prove his ability to. If he can be the guy. This stretch has not been his best the last week or so. What are you seeing from Wool? How are you feeling about him coming out of these last 3 games? I mean, admittedly, he didn't play in Vancouver or against Vancouver, but tonight and Carolina.
Look, he and Matt Nyes, two very young players that the Leafs rely a lot on, and they have the exact same symptom of they are either like the best player in the world or they are useless. Joseph Wool, when he is on his game, as we've seen in the playoffs, as we saw like against Philadelphia, for example, like last week, like or 2 weeks ago, whatever, when he's on his game, he is a top 5 goalie in the league. The problem is he is not always on his game, and when he's not, like in Carolina, like tonight, he is borderline unusable. And the fact that those are the only 2 modes he has, what's going to be in the mystery box today? I don't know. Now, there is a bit of a theory that because this is the most games he's played and Stolar's going out really makes him play a lot, that he's fatigued and just really tired because he's never played this many games before. It might be true. At the same time, your fatigue should not be affecting, like that first goal, that Stankoven goal.
Yeah.
Unacceptable. You want to go back to Carolina. The 4th goal in Carolina, the really bad 5-hole one he gave up. Can't like sometimes he just gives up these goals that you're like, how did that even manage to go in?
Yeah.
Can't have it.
No, you can't. That first one was real bad tonight. Like that, and it was not to excuse anything else from any of the other players, but it was a little bit of like kind of not a backbreaker, but like something. It was a pretty heavy straw in all the straws that broke the camel's back, to continue this weird metaphor streak that we're on. It felt like, they started strong, they'd gotten ahead, things had balanced out a little bit, and then from that point on, it was all Dallas. And that was a shot that he had. It should have been a save. He thought he had it stopped, and it just kind of squeaked through him and just sat there. And Stankoven just right place, right time, did the right thing for Dallas, not for us. Yeah, well, it'll be it'll be interesting to see when Stolarz comes back, if he's able to get up to game speed, and pick up where he left off pretty much right away. Because I do think, well, there probably is a fatigue element here, and that shouldn't be an excuse. You're a professional athlete. That shouldn't be the thing that you're running into. But if that is the case, then the other part of this tandem that has been so good coming back does take the weight off of him. It takes the pressure off of him. And, because right now, when he doesn't play, who goes in? Dennis Hildeby or Matt Murray? And neither of those guys has had a tremendous amount of success of late. So I think there's probably an element for Wool there's probably also a mental element of like, I can't lose the games that I'm in, because those other games, the team has a harder time. Whereas when Stolarz is around, it's the 2 of them together. Both of them are backing each other up. There's sort of a confidence there that no matter who's in net, one of them is going to do well and keep the team alive and keep the team in it. One other player we haven't touched on too much, but who's been on a real cold streak of late, and it's getting to the point where I'm starting to get concerned. William Nylander, he was again one of the best players to start the year. Got off to a rip-roaring start. Was tied in league's goal scoring for a while there. I'm not sure where he's at in that race right now, but he has he has completely cooled off of late. I'm not sure how many games we're up to without a goal, but it's
he scored in Carolina.
Okay, so it wasn't not quite as bad as I was thinking, but still,
yes, it is.
He still hasn't looked good at all lately. What's going on with Willie? What's happening here?
So first of all, so in Carolina, to start that game, he had 3 breakaways in the first 8 minutes of that game, and he broke his slump. He scored.
Yeah.
That goal is his only point in the last 7 games.
God. Yeah. Okay, you're right. It is as bad as I was thinking.
$11.5 million, and you have 1 point in your last 7 games.
Yeah.
I would get mad, and I have, at Max Domi for going 7 games without a point, or with 1 point. For a supposed $11.5 million player, that is unacceptable. Completely unacceptable.
Yeah. It's bad. It's just bad. Like and he's just vanished, right? Like he seems like he's vanished entirely. Like aside from, those breakaways in Carolina and maybe like one play a game, you just don't notice him. Like he hit the post on the power play, and that was it. Like what else did he do? Where else was he in this game? He's almost invisible.
He had a horrific D zone turnover.
Yeah. You're not noticing him, and if you are, it's because he's done something wrong. Whereas at the start of the year, for the first several months, you always knew where he was on the ice because he was making things happen. He was scoring, he was setting plays up, he was creating chances, just generating offense. And all of that has vanished. And, it almost feels like we're back in the dreaded 2019-2020 season when he, held out and then came back and just did nothing. And it took until the next year, but like that's the last time we saw him play this poorly for this extended of a stretch, and he's just vanished. Like you wonder if there's an injury or something, but if not, like he's just completely lost it. If it's the yips, if it's what, he's just vanished, which is the weird part. He's not still generating and just having bad luck. He's not. I mean, he hit a post tonight, but he's not hitting posts all over the place. He's not getting robbed. He's not setting up plays. He might as well not even be there. And like you said, that just can't be from this player who's getting paid this much money. And, put the money aside for a second, is just relied upon, has this much skill and is relied upon this much by this team. That can't be. It just cannot be. All right, let's move on into our third period. As we do that, of course, we want to remind you that Game Over has some merch. We got some merchandise. If you want to help spread the word that way about Game Over, you can go to thegameovernetwork.com and check out the store page. There's t-shirts, there's hoodies, there's hats, there's toques that you can buy for all the different shows. There's goalie designs, player designs, all the good stuff. It looks great. My parents bought me my own merch for Christmas this year, which was pretty nice of them. Opened up a Game Over Toronto T-shirt for on December 25th, which was pretty great. And it's a great shirt, looks great, feels great to wear, and you just know you're just helping spread the word about Game Over Toronto in particular, but Game Over in general. So thegameovernetwork.com, click on store, check out what we got there. Buy a shirt, buy a hoodie, wear it out with pride. And hey, when people ask about it, say, hey, you got to check out Game Over. It's cool post-game shows, live on YouTube, also on podcast form. Check it out. All right, third period. It's been an interesting season. It's been an interesting season for the Leafs, and I feel like we fluctuate between this team is unbeatable and this team can't win. And I feel like the last little while, the end of last year and the beginning of this year have really put a fine point on this, because the last, I look back in my notebook here and I look at the last handful of games that I did before this one, and they were all wins. Things were looking good. Things were looking up. Everybody was talking about first in the Atlantic. Everything was feeling pretty good. And then this week happens. And coming into this one, after the two losses to Carolina and Vancouver, the conversation had immediately switched back to, are they about to fall off the face of the earth? What's happening here? What's wrong with this team? And I feel like we've had those whiplash shifts a couple of different times this year, where we've gone from, hey, everything looks pretty great. Yes, there's some areas of to improve on, but they're winning a lot and they're in first, to this team is one more bad week away from being in some real trouble. And I want to get your take on this, on just how streaky this team has been, how hot and cold this team has been, what you make of the way they have both succeeded for extended periods, but also had these periods of just looking despondent. What have you thought of just, taking a bird's eye view of this season so far?
Well, on the season,
Yeah.
the Leafs have been one of the better defensive teams in the league. They have been able to grind games to a halt. They have been able to insulate their goaltenders very well, which has led to a lot of defensive success. And when you keep the puck out of the net, generally good things happen.
Yeah.
As of late, specifically, the Leafs have had, since probably mid-December, the Leafs have had an offensive crisis going on. They have really struggled to consistently put the puck in the back of the net. And even during that 5-game winning streak, especially those games against Philadelphia, there were warning signs that, okay, they're winning, so it's okay, but they do not look good in these wins. But they're winning, so we didn't talk about it. They lay a complete egg against Carolina. Okay, look, 5-game winning streak, they weren't necessarily playing that well. It comes to an end, whatever. They get shut out by Vancouver and generate nothing. They play Dallas tonight. And not a whole lot. In the last 10 games, the Leafs have had 30 or more shots 3 times.
Yeah.
And 30 shots we view as a pretty decent baseline for being like, okay, you had the puck a decent amount, you got some chances, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
In the last 10 games, the Leafs expected goals in each game. All situations, so this includes power play, shorthanded chances, whatever. League average is 2.98, so just a hair under 3. Last 10 games, 2.49, 3.43, 3.04, 2.99, 3.68. You can spot where the wins are.
Yeah, right?
2.39, 2.8, 3.16, 1.79, and then tonight, 2.32. So not only are they, first of all, failing to even get to average, they've been under that average mark in 6 out of 10 games. And also, it's not like when they exceeded by very much. There'd be times in the past where the Leafs might have 5 expected goals in a game. 5.5 even. When they are exceeding average, when they're above average, they are just above average. The Leafs offense, look, it's fair to say reactionary, because it's not based on it kind of is based on the whole season. The Leafs are no longer a top 10 offense. They have $50 million, rough whatever, in offense, $45 million in top talent on offense, and they don't have a top 10 offense anymore. Their power play, I talked about on Saturday, every single year in the Matthews era, except for one, they were top 10 in power play, often top 5. And this year they're currently 19. The Leafs are not a good offense anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, we tend to think of them as being a good offense because of the core 4, because those guys are so or have such elite talent. But you're right. This year it seems to have cooled off, and we've talked about Willie's struggles of late, Austin Matthews struggling with injuries. Marner and Tavares have played fairly well. Maybe cooled off a little bit lately, but they've had fairly strong seasons. But beyond them, there is not a whole lot. That's where we start looking to. It's why Matthew Nyes is such a focal point, despite being only in his sort of second full season. It's why it's why people were so frustrated with Nick Robertson, because a lot was expected from him. He was the guy who was supposed to help fill that void.
It's not even expected though. It's needed. We need Robertson to be good. We need Nyes to be good. So when they have bad games, it sticks out like a sore thumb, because that means bad things have happened.
Yeah, and there's the old adage, right? Defense wins championships, and goaltending wins championships, and so I feel like the defense and the goaltending in particular has covered for this lack of offense. But if, as you go through stretches, as you do every year and every team does, where the defense gets a little bit cold or the goaltending gets a little bit cold, especially when one of your tandem guys is out. That the defense and the goaltending have covered for the lack of offense this year. You kind of need the offense to cover for the natural ebbs and flows of a season when it comes to the defense and the goaltending. And so far, they haven't been able to do that. Really, I mean, there was that goofy one against the Bruins, the 6-4. Mm-hmm. I think you can make the case that the offense covered for the defense and the goaltending in that one. Beyond that, I mean, look at it. They got shut out. They got shut out against Vancouver, and they scored one tonight.
Yep.
You're not winning any games that way. Not winning any games at all. So
this is just tweeted after the game. This is from Luke Fox. Uh-huh. NHL division leaders by goal differential. Mm-hmm. Capitals in the Metro, plus 63. Very good. Jets in the Central, plus 48. Golden Knights in the Pacific, plus 34. Still pretty very good.
Yeah.
Maple Leafs, Atlantic, plus 8.
Well, at least it's a plus.
For comparison, mm-hmm. Florida, plus 10. Tampa Bay, plus 38.
What the hell is going on in Tampa?
Tampa's the best team. I know they got killed by the Bruins tonight, but Tampa's the best team in this division.
Yeah. Are you feeling like they're going to kind of sneak up on everybody in the back half here?
They have not. They are so far behind in games played that they are just bound to just on sheer math. They could win half of. They could go 500 and they'll catch up to everyone just because they have so many games in hand. And like everyone else in the Atlantic sucks. Yeah. They all are in the negatives. Montreal is on a crazy run right now, so have fun with Saturday's broadcast with Andrew. But look, the Mid-Atlantic is in full force this year. I don't think I've ever seen like. Whoever wins the Atlantic is going to win it with like 105 points.
Yeah. Man, that's wild. That is wild. You look at the standings, you see Tampa a little bit behind, and then you look at those games played, and you remember, oh right, they've got a lot of ground to make up, and if they're plus 38 and the two teams ahead of them are don't even make that together, barely make half of that. Don't even make half of that together. You suddenly start to worry about the Lightning breathing down your neck, and whoever has to play them in the first round, be it the Leafs again or the Panthers again, will have a fun time, and it'll be a great series. I have no doubt. It'll be exciting hockey. But even if they finish in that 3 spot, they look well positioned to surprise some folks.
Should mention real quick, the Panthers did just win in a shootout against the Devils, so they are only 1 point back now.
Oh. Breathing down our necks. By the end of the week, we may no longer be able to say first place in the Atlantic Leafs, and then I don't think it's time to panic, but it's that little cushion, that little title that we've been holding on to. Might be, with that gone, maybe that will cause some folks internally to open their eyes to the unfortunate reality playing out. All right, let's quickly move into our overtime period. If you've got questions, if you've got comments, fire them off in the live chat. We will answer some of them momentarily. As always, though, before we get to that, we'll quickly remind you, if you want to go the extra mile in supporting Game Over, you can do so by supporting Game Over on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/thegameover network. There's some terrific perks there you can get involved with over on Patreon. Again, patreon.com/thegameover network. And you can also donate and get rewards via LaRouche, which is a crowdfunding service based out of Quebec for companies based out of Quebec that will unlock, if we reach certain milestones, will help us unlock some funding from the Quebec government, which would be a huge, huge deal. So patreon.com/the Game Over Network, or search us up on LaRouche. Okay, got a comment here in the live chat from Josh DiSavino, who says, fellas, what do we think Berube's vision of this team is in an ideal world? What would Craig Berube, if he could magically get everybody to play the way he wants them to, what would he like to see from this team?
The 2020 and 2021 New York Islanders. It's not even meant to be a joke.
Yeah.
Like, unironically,
No,
that's
true.
exactly what he wants them to be, the best defensive team in the league.
Yeah.
And and then in these low event games, he wants the elite talent on the Leafs to be the difference. They have the elite talent to have these, nights where they have 20 shots and still score 4 goals with just pure elite shooting talent. That's what he wants. Oh, yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're onto it there. He is very defensively minded. He wants to keep things, like you said, low event. And there have been some games this year, even games that they've won, where you're watching them and you're like, God, nothing's happened for a while. Nothing particularly interesting or exciting has happened for a while. Sometimes you look at the shot counter and it's way lower than you think it ought to be, and that's his style. And I think him and Treliving got their way with the defense this offseason. They made a lot of changes that have moved the team in that direction on that end, but for whatever reason he can't quite get. He's not getting out of the top end guys exactly what he needs and what he's looking for. They have won some of those weird games, some of those weird low event, low shooting games. I will always go back to that just bizarre Devils game where they, where it didn't have 10 shots through 2 periods and then won in overtime. So sometimes he does get his way. But it seems like the kind of thing that, that's the way he wants them to play. But, some of these guys were probably better suited for Sheldon Keefe's way of playing. And that's why they brought in Keefe as the guy when they did, and hoped that he could get them over the edge, and ultimately did not. And that's why he's coaching the Devils, who, I'm sure would love to get the Leafs back for that, as I said, ridiculous game earlier this year. But good question, Josh. I think that's where we can leave it for tonight. We've been going for.
I have one. We should mention this.
Okay, let's get this.
John Klingberg is apparently coming back to the NHL, and the Leafs are apparently the front runners to sign him. What do we think about that?
If the price is right, I'm willing to take a flyer on him.
Under $1 million.
Under $1 million, yeah, sure, try it. Why not? This guy had at one point was one of the best offensive defensemen in the league. What's the one thing we say the defense is missing? A little bit of offense. And if you can get him, he will never be what he was. But if you can get him to be a little bit like what he was, you can get him to provide some of that. That might be a missing ingredient from this team. I'll tell you what, one guy that I have been surprised to find myself enjoying watching as much as I do is Philippe Myers. And I realized it's because I like it when he takes a slap shot from the point. And he's the only one that does it. And when he takes a slap shot from the point, I'm like, finally, somebody did it. And so I find myself enjoying Philippe Myers a lot more than I was expecting to. Because
Myers
it's what they're missing.
Everything happens when he's on the ice.
Yeah.
Everything. Good and bad.
Yeah.
He's an adventure, man.
So, you know what? If they want to bring in John Klingberg for under $1 million for another try, I'm willing to take a flyer on it. I'll go watch him a few times at Coca-Cola Coliseum as he gets ready with the Marlies, and then we'll see what he's ready, see what he can do if and when he gets this chance. But I'm mildly intrigued by the possibility. How do you feel?
Look, if it's a fully variable contract, what's the risk?
Exactly.
And hey, look, this is my penance for hating, and I absolutely hated it, the Max Pacioretty signing. This is my penance.
Yeah.
This is my penance, because when Max Pacioretty was signed, I was like, I hate this. What is the point of this? This is stupid. And now look at how good Pacioretty has been, and how just you have to if you're projecting a game one lineup for the playoffs.
Oh, he's got to be in it.
In what world is Pacioretty not in it, right? So
No, yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna just say go for it on the off chance that he becomes a rock star, because I don't want to be wrong again.
Yeah, imagine they sign him for $900,000, and he shows up, and in the last, let's say, 30 games, gets a handful of goals, 20 points. Yeah, that's maybe a little high. Maybe 12 points. Maybe 12 points more accurate.
I was gonna say, if he gets 20 points in 30 games, he's gonna be the greatest thing that's ever happened.
I suddenly realized I said way too low a number at the start, because we're further into the season than sometimes I like to admit. But if he gets a handful of goals, gets some assists, helps maybe generate some power play offense. Maybe.
Wouldn't that be something?
That'd be nice.
Power play. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, we also said OEL was going to help there, and he's been a complete non-factor offensive. So
yeah. So
I'm also the prospect of a Benoit Klingberg pair. That pair is going to give up 50 goals a game. Oh my lord, that will be the worst defensive pair in the league.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It will be interesting. Well, we'll see. We'll see where it winds up. No guarantee that Klingberg signs with the Leafs, but seems like a real possibility at this point. Real quick, Pam Justice in the chat says liked and subscribed. Thank you very much, Pam Justice. Appreciate that. All right, that's where we'll leave things, and we'll wrap things up on this episode of Game Over. Zach, if people want to keep up with you in between shows, what's the best way they can do that?
You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at ZachPayne41. You can find me on YouTube at ZachPayne40, or it might just be Zach Payne. I don't even know. You can find me on YouTube at Zach Payne. I make football content over there. You can also find my football podcast at Payne and Drain on Twitter, or The Payne and Drain Show, wherever you get your podcasts.
There you go. And you can follow me at DominicJ25 on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to talk some Star Wars, you can check out the Star Wars Underworld podcast. The Skeleton Crew finale airs tonight, and I'm going to go watch it as soon as we're done this. And hopefully it's better than the Leafs did tonight. Yay. But we've had a lot of fun talking Skeleton Crew over there. So check out Star Wars Underworld. Search for it on your favorite podcast apps and on YouTube. And of course, make sure you subscribe to Game Over Toronto on YouTube, on your favorite podcast apps. And if you're enjoying the show, if you're listening on podcast form and you wanted to leave a review and a rating, that would also be a big help to us. Helps get the word out, helps boost things in the various podcast providers. So do that as well. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you like to listen. But that is it. Game Over Toronto will be back on Thursday as the Leafs take on Sheldon Keefe and the New Jersey. I'm so sorry to everyone in New York and New Jersey for that. As the Leafs take on Sheldon Keefe and the New Jersey Devils, we will see you for that.